A year ago, we wholeheartedly vowed our love to one another. I made a commitment in my heart to share my life with this gentle-hearted man. However, post-marriage, his demeanor underwent a complete transformation. The affectionate partner I once knew seems to have vanished into thin air. Now, my husband regards me not as his beloved, but merely as a domestic servant. Just listen and remain silent has become his mantra. I ponder how much longer I can endure this existence. Little did I know then that a glimmer of hope would illuminate my path. My name is Michelle Jenkins, age 28. By day, I serve as a secretary in my father's company, while shouldering the responsibilities of a homemaker. My father, having inherited the business from my grandfather 2 years prior, has always kept me at arm's length from suitors who are often attracted by wealth. I had grown weary of pretentious suitors and had stopped divulging my family background. Then I crossed paths with David. He was different, devoid of vices like gambling or smoking, and moderate in his drinking habits. He professed his love for me openly, filling me with hopes of a blissful future together. Despite my reservations, I chose to keep my lineage a secret, succumbing to my father's protective instincts. He feared I would be ensnared by yet another fortune seeker. Reluctantly, I agreed to reveal the truth after a year, as per my father's counsel. Thus, David and I exchanged vows under the shadow of my concealed identity. Yet, a year into our marriage, I still conceal the truth from him. For David is no longer the tender soul I fell in love with. His demeanor turned frigid and distant, his once endearing traits replaced by unrelenting criticism. Every aspect of my existence seemed subject to his disparagement, be it the meals I prepared or the household chores I diligently attended to. His demands grew increasingly unreasonable, his temper more volatile. The affectionate gazes were replaced by menacing glares. My attempts to reason were met with outbursts of rage. The joy I had envisioned in our union has been replaced by a suffocating atmosphere of tyranny. As I reflect upon our tumultuous journey, I am left questioning how much longer I can endure this oppressive existence. I found myself detained at work, and it was well past 7 p.m. by the time I finally arrived home. Upon announcing my arrival, I was met with a barrage of accusations. "You're late? What time do you call this?" he bellowed. I attempted to explain, "I'm sorry, work just became overwhelming. I'll start dinner right away." But my words were met with scorn. "A mere secretary like you doesn't have enough work to justify staying late," he retorted dismissively. Despite my protests that I was handling additional accounting tasks, his tirade continued. "Don't talk back to me. It's unthinkable for a woman to return home later than her husband. Next time, if you're later than me, you're quitting your job." Cowed by David's threats, I remained silent, suppressing any impulse to stand up for myself. Looking back, I questioned whether I should have mustered the courage to leave him sooner. But the weight of parental expectations loomed large in my mind. I had married in secrecy, unwilling to disappoint my parents, and so I bore the burden of my marital woes alone. Then, one day during a break at work, my father summoned me to the reception room. Accustomed to assisting him as his secretary, I entered to find him waiting, wearing a contented smile. "What's up?" I inquired, puzzled by his expression. "It's been a year since you married David, hasn't it? I believe it's time to honor our agreement and reveal the truth to him," my father remarked gently. Struggling to mask my inner turmoil, I admitted, "Yes, we did make that promise. Things are a bit complicated right now." Concern etched across my father's face. He reached out to reassure me. "Did you and David have a disagreement? Newlyweds often face challenges, but your mother and I weathered our fair share of storms too. And look at us now, still happily together." "I'm sure you'll be okay, Michelle," my father reassured me, his voice tinged with concern. "It's not exactly a fight. Don't worry, everything will be all right. I mean, every couple has their share of arguments, right?" "Well, I suppose you're right," I conceded, trying to downplay the situation. "Anything else bothering you?" he inquired gently. "No, nothing really. I'm okay. But I guess I want to wait for things to settle down a bit before I talk to him," I replied hesitantly. "Don't let it get you down too much." "A little marital spat is pretty common," my father offered. evidently believing our discord to be minor. Unwilling to burden my parents with the truth about my strained relationship with David, I had kept them in the dark until now. Consequently, my father seemed to think everything was going well between us. "Well, you better make up with David soon," he advised before leaving the room, leaving me alone with my swirling emotions. I wrestled with the dilemma of how to navigate my increasingly troubled marriage without alarming my parents. Yet I knew I couldn't keep the facade up forever. That evening, I resolved to confront David. As he returned home and I finished preparing dinner, I broached the delicate subject. "David, there's something I want to talk about." I began tentatively. "Huh? I'm tired, you know," he grumbled, clearly disinterested. "It's important. Look, we're married, right? I want our relationship to be equal and for us to enjoy our lives together every day," I persisted. "Equal? What are you talking about?" "There's no way you and I are equal," he retorted dismissively, seizing my hair and pulling it harshly. "Ouch!" I cried out, tears welling up in my eyes, as he continued to grip my hair tightly. His words pierced through me like daggers as he continued, "Listen well. I'm the one who did you the favor of marrying you. Be grateful that I deemed to marry a plain and useless woman like you." "But didn't you say you loved me?" I choked out, my voice trembling with hurt. "Don't make me laugh," he sneered, his contempt palpable. "I just pretended to like you because you seemed obedient and would be a handy housekeeper." He spat out coldly, his words laced with disdain. "That's not true. You just need to be quiet and listen to me, housekeeper," he declared, his grip tightening on my hair as he dragged me closer to his face. From that moment on, any hope of equality between us evaporated. I resigned myself to the grim reality, unwilling to burden my parents and unable to pursue a divorce. As days passed, my appetite waned, and I found solace only in the company of my roommate. Then, one morning, amidst the dreary routine, I awoke feeling utterly drained. My head throbbed, and a chill permeated my body. Taking my temperature, I discovered it had soared to a staggering 104 degrees Fahrenheit. Summoning what little strength remained, I called out to my husband, "David, I'm sorry, but I don't think I can make breakfast today." "What? Why not?" he snapped, his irritation palpable. "I got a fever of 104. I'm in so much pain. Can I just stay in bed for the day?" I pleaded. At this, he emitted a long-suffering sigh before unleashing his wrath, slacking off chores because of a stupid fever. "Get to work, you good-for-nothing." "But please forgive me, I'm really sick," I implored, my voice trembling with weakness. "Shut up! Stop making excuses. You're just a housemaid. Don't you dare defy your master," he bellowed, his words stinging with contempt. "Please, just for today, I'm begging you," I pleaded once more, but he merely clicked his tongue in disdain, slammed the door shut, and stormed out of the room. Left alone, my hands shook, and my body trembled uncontrollably, a prisoner to both sickness and despair. I came to a stark realization of just how close to the brink I was being pushed. If I continued down this path, I feared I would truly break down. The relentless pressure of living like this threatened to consume both my body and soul. I knew I needed to take action, but the question remained. What could I possibly do? My fever-addled mind struggled to conjure a solution amidst the haze of exhaustion. Perhaps it was the culmination of prolonged stress, but before I could formulate a plan, I succumbed to sleep once more. Several hours later, I was abruptly jolted awake by the thunderous sound of my husband's voice. "Hey, didn't I tell you to wake up, you dumb woman?" he roared. David?" I stammered, glancing outside to find darkness had descended. Though my fever had somewhat subsided, my body felt weighted, and a dull ache persisted in my head. Despite my condition, he unleashed his fury. "I called you multiple times. What are you doing sleeping?" "Called? I must have missed it," I faltered, struggling to comprehend. "I sent you a text, saying I'm bringing my boss home. Prepare drinks and snacks, didn't I?" he demanded, his tone seething with impatience. "Wait, you knew I was sick today, right? And yet you brought your boss home?" I questioned, incredulity lacing my words. "I invited him to continue drinking at home. My promotion depends on this. Get up and get things ready now, he commanded, seizing my arm and dragging me towards the kitchen. No, I can't. I'm still in my pajamas, and I'm not feeling well at all. I protested weakly, futilely resisting his forceful grip. Shut up! Just get out here now, he barked, leaving me little choice but to comply. With a heavy heart and aching body, I trudged into the kitchen, where I was met with the daunting task of entertaining his boss. As he hurriedly greeted his guest, I couldn't help but overhear their conversation from the entrance. Are you sure this is okay this late? I'm sure your wife wouldn't appreciate. His boss's voice trailed off, echoing my unspoken concerns. I don't have a wife, just a housemaid, my husband declared casually, dismissing my presence entirely. Housemaid? Sort of like a main wife, you could say. But please don't mind, he added, ushering his boss into the living room. Caught off guard, I stood there in my pajamas, devoid of any makeup, feeling a flush of embarrassment wash over me. Nice to meet you, I managed to mumble, bowing my head in apology. My husband is always telling me about you. I apologize for my appearance. I'm the section chief, Mr. Smith. I'm sorry for intruding so suddenly. Please, don't mind me. I'll prepare something right away, Mr. Smith responded courteously. As I retreated to the kitchen, concealing my face, my husband's harsh voice pierced through the air. Hey, get a move on and make something. You're absolutely useless, he scolded. I'm sorry, just wait a little bit longer, I replied meekly, attempting to quell his ire. Instead of opening your mouth, move your hands. Despite Mr. Smith's presence, my husband continued his disparaging remarks. You're really useless, he muttered under his breath, each word like a dagger to my already wounded pride. In the brief moment my husband excused himself to the bathroom, Mr. Smith leaned in to address me. Excuse me, he began tentatively. Startled, I turned to face him, my heart racing with apprehension. Yes, is there something you need? I asked, trying to maintain composure despite my inner turmoil. You're the daughter of CEO Allen, aren't you? He inquired, catching me off guard. How did you? I trailed off, my mind racing to comprehend his revelation. I had previously visited your father's company regarding a business deal. You served me tea then, didn't you? Mr. Smith continued, his words sending a jolt of recognition through me. Wait, you were from that time? I murmured, realization dawning upon me. I usually attended all interactions with our business partners. Each time, he confirmed, his expression somber yet inquisitive. As I served tea, I was introduced as Mr. Allen's daughter, and Mr. Smith's recognition struck me. David's workplace had recently become a client of my father's company, yet I hadn't disclosed to my father that David worked for Smith. Glancing towards the bathroom, Mr. Smith lowered his voice to a hush. What's up with your husband's behavior? Is he always like this at home? Yes, unfortunately, I admitted, shaken by the sudden candor. I can't believe what you've been through. Why haven't you told Mr. Allen? He questioned, concern evident in his voice. Regardless, we can't let this continue. Leave it to me. With resolve in his eyes, Mr. Smith swiftly gathered his belongings and departed, leaving me feeling as if a weight had been lifted. It was a moment of profound relief, as if I had finally found an ally. However, upon David's return from the bathroom, he was furious to find Mr. Smith gone. Why didn't you stop him, you good for nothing? He bellowed. Despite his rage, I chose to trust in Mr. Smith's assurance and endure. Several days later, I was summoned by my father to the company's reception room, where I found both Smith and a pale-faced David. Confused by the unexpected gathering, I waited anxiously as the atmosphere grew tense. My father's stern expression betrayed his disappointment as he addressed me. I heard from Smith that you've been treated horribly by David, haven't you? I faltered, overwhelmed by the weight of the moment. I understand you're kind-hearted and wanted to avoid worrying me, didn't you? My father continued, his tone softening with understanding. Dad, thank you. I managed, my voice choked with emotion. Smith bowed his head in acknowledgement, and my father's gaze turned to David, his words cutting like ice. David, I can't believe you turned out to be such a scumbag. I shouldn't have let you marry my daughter. Wait, please, David pleaded, visibly shaken. I had no idea you were the president of our business partner. I didn't know Michelle was the CEO's daughter, David stammered, his voice betraying a mix of shock and regret. Shut up! So if you knew, you would have treated Michelle better? You're truly a lowlife, Smith retorted, his tone laced with disdain. No, there's no reason for this. I'm going to report you to your company's CEO. I'm acquainted with him, and we have a long-standing relationship, Smith threatened, his words carrying weight. No way, David exclaimed, his eyes welling up with tears as he crumpled to his knees. Desperation etched across his face. He turned to me, his plea unspoken yet palpable. Michelle, say something to your father for me, he implored. You want me to say something? Huh? I erupted, the frustration I had long suppressed finally boiling over. Do you have any idea how much I've suffered because of your overbearing, chauvinistic attitude? I've been holding it in all this time. I tried to improve our relationship, but it's you who ruined everything, right? Treating me like a housemaid and constantly berating me. Do you know how humiliating that was? Wait, Michelle, please forgive me, David begged, his voice thick with emotion. Shut up. Don't you dare casually call me by my name. No matter how much you apologize, I will never forgive you. I don't care if you fall into hardship. You get what you deserve. If you understand, never show up in front of me again. Stay out of my life forever, I declared, my resolve unwavering. At the end of my outburst, David broke down in uncontrollable sobs. Smith, with a firm grip on David's arm, bowed and left the reception room. Subsequently, David and I got divorced. When my father informed David's company president about the incident, he lost his job as well. It appeared that David had displayed a poor attitude at work and was consequently fired. Given these circumstances, he didn't receive any severance pay. Following the divorce, David apparently moved back to his parents' house. However, his in-laws were already aware of the incident. I heard his father gave him a stern scolding and kicked him out of the house. Now he seems to be working tirelessly at a factory where he can live in. He probably doesn't have much of a cushion since he has to make alimony payments to me. On the other hand, after the divorce, I moved back to my parents' house. Now, I've completely recovered and am focusing on my job. Since then, I've been meeting Smith regularly, and we have a good relationship. I'm not considering remarrying yet, but if I do someday, I want someone like him. When that time comes, I hope to build a happy family.